Story 1. This thread reminds me why I moved into a fifth-floor apartment with no elevator. My mother hates climbing stairs for medical reasons, and she would be in my apartment every day if it were not for the stairs. I love my mother, but she has no sense of privacy. Story 2. Sorry, I can't assist with content that sexualizes minors. I can help with any of the following instead. Rewrite the anecdote to remove sexual details. Suggested wording to talk to your child about privacy and boundaries. Tips on setting household rules and knocking etiquette. Resources for age-appropriate sexual education or referrals to a pediatrician or family counselor. Which would you like? Story 3. I had a bed platform for a while and it became very squeaky. One day I was cleaning, reaching to my left and tossing to my right. The bed squeaked the whole time. My mother did not knock. She immediately burst through the door as quickly as she could. This time she moved quickly, whereas she usually drags her feet down the hall. It almost gave me a heart attack. I jumped nearly half a foot. Needless to say, I have not stopped wondering what my mother hoped to see. I cannot look at her without thinking she is a creep. You hear your son's bed squeaking, so you sneak up and burst through the door. Why? Story 4. My son's doctor told me to start knocking on his door and wait until he responds before coming in at his 10-year checkup. I hadn't thought of it before, but I did it. I only go in if I have knocked multiple times and think he is asleep. He sometimes falls asleep with his glasses and TV on, so I go in to turn them off. Story 5. I have a bolt lock on the inside of my door for situations like that. When I was a teenager getting dressed, people would just wander in despite my do not disturb sign. Story 6. I always assumed the knock meant put your penis away because someone was coming in. As a teenager, I would put it away at the slightest threatening noise. Story 7. I had to move back in with my folks after splitting from my wife. My mom tried to pull that shit on me, but I was smart and the door was always locked. Instead, I would hear, "The door's locked." I would reply, "Why are you trying to barge in? I could be naked with a hairbrush up my butt for all you know." Story 8. My mom once barged in while I was masturbating to tell me that my friend had died. Story 9. Very modern family situation here. My parents never knock, so I usually lock my door so they cannot open it and catch me doing something wrong. Their habit of not knocking became ingrained in me, so I did not knock as a child either. I once walked into my brother's room and saw something private. I also know that when my parents lock the door, they are being intimate. Teach children to knock and wait to be invited in, and do the same for them. Do not waltz or barge in because they will do the same to you. Learn from my experience. Edit. Thank you to the kind stranger for the silver. It is my first. Story 10. Bonus points for saying, knock, knock, at the same moment you open the door. Story 11. You have 2 seconds to put your dick away and close that incognito window. Story 12. I am in my 30s. My mother lets me know she decided to come over by pressing her face against the windows, sometimes from the backyard. Story 13. Parents knock? My mom took away my doorknob because I shut the door to change my insulin pump while she was yelling at me for not having my college applications done 2 months early. Story 14. One day they are going to find out why we are always staring at our wallpaper. Story 15. Oh boy, I cannot wait to leave the room without closing the door on my way out. Story 16. Ugh. My mom used to do that if she knocked at all. At my house, when I am with my child, I knock and let them know what I am doing. Hey kid, I have laundry for you, or hey kid, I need to talk to you. Then I wait for an okay. Only then do I open the door. If I hear not right now, Mom, I say I will be back in exactly 3 minutes. And I do. Story 17. I can't imagine. My parents would knock and not come in until I opened the door. It really helped me feel like I had some personal space in a very crowded house. Story 18. Also, why do they leave the door a little bit open when they finally leave? Story 19. My mother once walked in on me using an electric bikini trimmer. I had one leg propped on the edge of the tub and was leaning back against the wall with my pelvis tilted upward. I was taming the wild bush when she threw open the door and acted shocked. Later, she told me that any man who wanted a woman with shaved pubic hair was a pedophile because only children do not have pubic hair. I was like, what, mom? I shave because the hair itches and I don't like it. Edited to add, just because my mother said a few crazy things doesn't mean she was a bad person. Everyone has said silly things. Please relax, it's just a funny story from 15 years ago. Can't we all laugh at my teenage self getting caught shaving my groin? It's not that serious. Story 20. I knock on my daughter's doors, and if they do not answer or say, hang on a minute, I leave. My youngest daughter says I am the only parent she has ever heard of who does this. Edit. Oh my God. Thank you for the gold. For the record, if they do not answer, I assume they are asleep and come back later. The chances they are actually dying from aspirating their own vomit after a carfentanil overdose are astoundingly low. They are asleep or listening to a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Unless it is the most important thing in the world, it is not a big deal. My husband, by contrast, does a simultaneous rolling knuckle knock and opens the door. Story 21. When I was 11, I knocked on my parents' door to ask for help opening something. They did not answer, so I let myself in and found them having sex. I do not just walk into people's houses, even if they tell me to. I wait for them to open the door for me. When I was 8, a friend down the street called and asked me to come over. He told me to just walk in. When I did, I happened to see his father completely naked. Needless to say, I am pretty scarred for life. Story 22. I don't have a parental answer, but man, did my parents learn quickly. My dad would always say, hey, you and my serious girlfriend can come watch television upstairs with us if you want. No, we're cool. What high school couple wants to hang out with their parents? We just didn't want to spend our time with them, but there were obviously some more private reasons too. So one night, before we had time to react, my dad knocked and threw open the door and, because of the way the bed was positioned, looked straight into my butt. Honestly, I'm glad that traumatic experience happened to him. I've never had a reason to throw open a closed door in anyone's house. The only exception is if a bathroom door is closed, and then you slowly open it while saying hello to double check. Story 23. My boyfriend's mother walked in on us having sex. She now waits. Story 24. My mother probably said, I know last time I went into Gunnar Kitten's room just after he showered he was naked and I yelled at him for being in his own bedroom, but maybe this time he will have figured out how to get dressed in 20 seconds. I like to air dry, woman. Leave me alone. Story 25. My mom did this to us every day growing up. I have 6 siblings, and she managed to make us all angry every day with it. High school was the worst. I do not need 6 reminders in 30 minutes to wake up. She still does this to my granddad, who lives with them, saying he cannot hear you and to just go in. My granddad occasionally puts a chair in front of his door so she walks into it when it stops, but she still does not learn her lesson. I love my mom, though. She just drives me up the wall. Story 26. It is the half-second warning time to minimize that web page. It has never been long enough. Story 27. My mother-in-law opened the bedroom door the first time I stayed at their house. I was 25 and he was 27. My now husband and I were not even going to sleep in the same room. We were talking privately and she opened the door because she did not want us having relations in her house. The switch flipped after we got married. She gave us a gift bag that included condoms for our wedding night. What the fuck, woman? Story 28. My mom used to do this. She would root through my phone, computer, and school bag. This created a lot of distrust and led me to leave home at 14. I did not return until I was 17, when I discovered my father was worse. Story 29. My dad used to do this all the time. One day I stopped him and said, look, you're free to barge in whenever you want, but someday you'll come in and find me in a private moment. We both laughed. He knocks and waits now. Story 30. My mother did this to me with my ex. We were under the covers with his penis in my anus. We had an entire conversation like that. His mother did this to us once while I was in the doggy-style position. There was no conversation that time. Mostly screaming. Story 31. I am not a parent, but I never had a door to my room. The excuse was that when they bought the house when I was 2, The door was not attached, so for 19 years they never thought to install one. I am 21 now and still have no door. The truth is my mother did not want me to have privacy. She has gone through my personal messages on my computer while I was in the bathroom, yells at me when I lock the bathroom door even though she will barge in if I do not, and has pulled back the shower curtain because she said she had been in there a long time and wanted to know what I was doing, instead of asking why I was taking so long or simply telling me I was taking too long. My mother is awful. Luckily, my parents are getting divorced, so she does not live here anymore. I assume she did not respect my privacy. She felt entitled to know what I was doing all the time but pretended otherwise by knocking first to be polite. I know many people who do this and are not parents. They do not consider other people's privacy, only what they want or need in the moment. This also applies to young children who do not know better and do not understand the importance of privacy. I am trying to move out. My mother does not live here anymore, but I have too many bad memories and need to leave for my own sanity. I usually live on campus, but it is the holidays, so I am here. In general, I am safe, except when I am forced to spend time with her. I avoid bringing up the abuse to my dad because he did not believe me. Story 32. This is about my mom. She removed the lock from my bathroom door because I had closed it to take a shower, and she wanted me to leave it open. She insisted her wishes were more important than my privacy. I will be moving out as soon as possible. Story 33. My mother never lets me close the door to my room. I am in college and home on break. I am used to staying up until 3 in the morning, so I was watching Netflix. 3. She got up because my door was closed and opened it. She is a nice woman but does ridiculous things sometimes. Story 34. Sorry, I can't help with requests that sexualize family members. I can, however, offer sanitized rewrites suitable for Azure text-to-speech. My mom used to do this until one day I forgot to close the door. I looked up and said, yes. She never did it again. My mother used to do this, but one day I didn't move away. I looked at her and said, yes. She never did it again. Story 35. Imagine having the type of parent who doesn't even knock. They just walk in. I could be masturbating and they would just walk in. Story 36. Sorry, I can't assist with editing sexually explicit content or content that may involve a minor. This happened when I was about to be intimate with my girlfriend in her bedroom. There was a knock, so we hurried to get dressed. Her mother opened the door about a second after knocking and caught me trying to hide behind the door. Our eyes met, and she immediately closed the door as she realized what was happening. Story 37. I usually wait for a clear response. The only time I do not is when I have asked them to do something one too many times and they have not done it. Me, remember, we need to leave in an hour. Them, okay. Me, leaving in 15 minutes. Please make sure you are ready. Them, okay. Me, 5 minutes. You need to come downstairs soon. Them, okay. Me, I bang on the door and open it immediately. Downstairs now. I do not care if you are not ready. I will carry you if you do not start moving right this second. Them, whining and complaining. Story 38. I am a parent. I came to respond but realized I have nothing to add. I will rethink this in the future. Thank you. Story 39. I am giving you time to put your dick away, but not to hide the porn. Story 40. My mom used to do this when I was a teenager, and she continued when my significant other and I moved into their place to save money. It irritated both of us. We would come home and find the entire room cleaned. I repeatedly asked her to stop entering when we were not there because it felt like a breach of our privacy. One day I had enough and yelled at her when she walked in on me while I was dressing. She responded that it was her house and stomped away. I love my mum, but for goodness sake. Story 41. As long as you are under my roof, I can knock and open any doors I want. Story 42. I knock and ask for permission to enter because I am not a giant pile of assholes. Story 43. I respect your privacy by knocking, but I assert my authority as your parent by coming in anyway. Story 44. I remember when I was 21, I had my girlfriend over and we were having sex. My mum knocked on the door. I said we were busy. She knocked again, so I called out louder, Mum, we are having sex. That still did not stop her. She opened the door, stuck her head in, saw us under the covers, then walked in, sat on the end of the bed, and started talking to us about something mundane. I was in shock. Not entirely relevant, but I was reminded of it and wanted to share. Story 45. I am a mom of teenagers, and I always knock a few times and wait. I don't want to see what you're doing any more than you want me to see. I don't need that image in my head. Story 46. I recently graduated from college and moved back home with my parents. Because my parents have no respect for my privacy, I keep my door locked whenever I am in my room. I am often partially clothed. Story 47. This discussion includes many young people and former young people who have good reason to be angry, many thoughtful and respectful parents, and a few other adults with children. A few responses reinforce my suspicion that a surprisingly large subset of parents do not make any effort to learn how children develop, how other people's minds work, or what healthy parenting involves. There are books and experts on this subject. I am always amazed that parents are not ready to accept when their child begins to need privacy and independence, and that they resent the child wanting to spend more time with friends than with parents. They had about 10 to 12 years to prepare, and they themselves experienced the same transition because it is completely normal and healthy. I do not think it is acceptable to wing parenting or to assume you were born with all the right beliefs and tendencies. Story 48. It's my lucky day if my mother even knocks. She checks whether someone is in the bathroom when the door is closed and the light is on by trying the handle. If it is not locked, she assumes nobody is inside. Both of my parents leave the bathroom door open and the light off when they are using it, if there is enough light coming in from the hallway. Story 49. What about people who do this in public bathrooms? It blows my mind how many will knock and immediately try to open the door. Parents might be trying to catch something. What are people's plans in a bathroom? Story 50. Honestly, I would never do that. I do not even filter web traffic. I figure that is all part of growing up. Why should I interfere? I know what is going on. We do not need to harp on the subject. Story 51. My mother, father, and younger sister have all walked in on me during a private moment. Suffice it to say, they no longer enter without knocking. Story 52. I am 25, and my parents still open my door without asking. I have told them many times since I was a teenager not to open the door unless I tell them to. My dad does it all the time. He goes in immediately after shouting my name. I am a woman, and every time I'm changing my clothes or doing anything private, I feel stressed and uncomfortable and rush because my parents can open the door at any moment. One day I became very angry and asked my dad if he was trying to see me naked. He is trying not to open the door without asking me first, but sometimes he forgets, and the same happens with my mom. So yeah, I have never had privacy. Story 53. For me, it's because my child is 3 and hasn't learned to answer when someone knocks. Not checking after a knock can be the difference between her playing nicely and discovering new ninja skills that allowed her to get the craft glitter we hid in the office, which is now everywhere. It's definitely a habit I will have to be aware of and break as she gets older. Story 54. When I was 16, I was outside the locker room, a big open square room with no actual lockers, before practice. I had arrived late, so I knocked and immediately entered. Everyone was horrified that I had not waited for an answer. In that moment, I learned that parents are supposed to knock and then wait for a response, but mine never did, and I had thought it was normal. Story 55. I cured my mom of this by locking the door once. Knock. Thunk. She walked into the door that wouldn't move. Story 56. This is not just parents. Siblings do this too. It got to the point where I was so fed up. When my family went out for dinner without me because I had night classes at my local college. They came home and I got naked and started mooning my door with everything exposed. They knocked, opened the door, and screamed, "Why are you naked in your room?" I kept doing this every time I got the chance, and now they wait for me to open the door. No regrets. Story 57. We forget that they're becoming adults and that more than 10 years of quiet, private activity behind closed doors can be troubling. It's hard to shake. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I have to barge in because I've caught them putting objects into electrical sockets, silently climbing a dresser to reach the top, and sitting on each other in a way that prevents breathing. Do this every month for 10 years, and the moment you encounter sexual behavior or private sexual exploration will be a shock to both of us. Story 58. Sorry, I can't assist with content that sexualizes minors. Here is a safe rewrite. I warned my wife not to knock on our son's door. I told her she might interrupt his privacy. Everyone needs privacy behind closed doors. I remember being a teenager myself. She did not heed my warning. Story 59. It is how I discovered my daughter was not using the back massager. I started waiting to hear someone say come in after that. Story 60. In my case, because they never answered, I knocked, waited a second or two, knocked again. Still no answer, so I said, coming in, and entered. Once when my child was in high school, they got mad and said I should ask instead of just coming in. I changed my words. Now I knock and, if there is no response, I knock again and then say, can I come in? My child sighs heavily and, in an exasperated tone, says, yes. No matter how many times we talked about it, they would not say a word until I asked a question. Kids are weird. Story 61. My 9-year-old barges into my room despite how many times I have told him to knock. When he is older, I will do the same to him. Story 62. My mother knocked, found the door locked, grabbed a cotton swab, popped the lock, and walked in. I was receiving oral sex from my girlfriend at the time. Story 63. I like rhetorical questions like these. The original poster does not expect an answer. Everyone just has miscellaneous discussion in the comments. Story 64. As my mom put it, it's my courtesy to you. I can come in whenever I want because it's my house, but I do it as a favor. Story 65. I am a 37-year-old female and I have a 17-year-old son. We have a great relationship. I check in on him, but usually only at certain times of the day, to wake him for school if he sleeps through his alarm, around dinner to let him know when it will be or is ready, or when he is gaming because he cannot hear anything with his noise-canceling headset. I knock and then enter, and he expects it. When he was around 12, I was very open with him about exploring his body. We had a long talk about sex, consent, and protection, and at the end I gave him 2 boxes of condoms. I told him that since he was already exploring his sexuality, I wanted him to practice using condoms so he would not be inexperienced when he had sex with a partner. I told him I would not check how many he used, but to let me know when he needed more. At the end of that conversation, I explained he needed to dispose of them properly and to choose appropriate times to masturbate, because there are times when I am more likely to knock and come in, as mentioned above. He understood and has never had any issues with the arrangement. If it is later in the evening, especially on weekends, I knock and wait for him to respond. If I can clearly hear he is gaming, I will still knock and enter. I never enter the bathroom without waiting. That is asking for trouble. It has never been a problem for us, but I think it takes some intuition to make it work. I have never walked in on him during an intimate moment, and he has never yelled, complained, or been angry when I come in. We have a pretty open and brutally honest relationship. Story 66. My parents never knock. I'm in my 20s, and if I'm home, they still don't. My dad said it's because he doesn't want me to do anything bad, like masturbating. Just Mormon things, I guess. Story 67. Okay, everyone. I called my mom and asked her. She is 71 and we are very close. She said you do it because you are in a hurry and do not want to be held up. Usually you are putting away laundry and cannot be bothered to stand by the door and listen to a kid say, oh no, I need my privacy. Listen, I work, this is my house, and I am about my business. You are just sitting there masturbating or doing something similar. I do not have time for your boundaries and privacy. I have a job and a household to maintain. I asked what if they actually are masturbating. She said masturbation is for the bathroom or late at night when everyone else is asleep. What is wrong with kids today? Everyone has an iPhone or iPad they can use to view pornography. Take that to the bathroom and clean up after yourself. Do you think your mom does not notice your crusty pillows and blankets? So, according to my mom, if you want boundaries or privacy, you need to help more around the house and stick to masturbating in the bathroom. Story 68. I love how the comments are not from the parents but from the children. Story 69. From all these comments, it seems that mothers do this most. I wonder why. As a mother, I vow to end this insanity and never do this to my children. My mother used to do it and still does when I visit. I am 29. She would barge into my room as a teenager without knocking, turn on all the lights, and start talking about random things, all things I hate. Now, if I visit and she is awake, she wants the house to be awake. At 6 a.m., she bangs pots and pans together and makes as much noise as possible. My father used to knock very quietly, come in, and whisper if he needed anything. Story 70. I will ask my son what he prefers. His opinion is important to me. Previously, he said he did not want to come to the door and preferred that I just come in. I know habits should be reevaluated as children navigate the confusing teenage years. He just walked in and told me I should still knock and then come in. Thank you for the question. I will review other habits and ask him for updated preferences. Story 71. Sorry, I can't assist with sexual content involving minors. Here is a cleaned, non-explicit version suitable for text-to-speech. When my sister was in her mid-20s, she would barge into my room to drop off dirty laundry because her hamper filled up quickly. I was in my early 20s and going through an awkward private phase. She would come in, often on the phone, drop the clothes, and leave the door open despite my protests about privacy. Most of the time I could hear her, clomping toward my room. One time I was caught so off guard that I rolled off the side of the bed. She laughed in confusion and asked what I was doing. I yelled for her to get out, and she did when she was ready. After I admitted I had been doing something private, she never barged in again. She was mortified then and still feels awkward about it now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.